Yeah.
And then I'm like, then I go on. I'm like, they don't care.
They
They
don't
don't
care at all,
care.
but I feel cool.
But
So
I feel
who
better, and that's what's
cares?
important because my feelings are more important than yours. Welcome into Live on Two Wheels. Today we're going to be talking about what I wish I knew when I first started riding and maybe just other little things to know. So, those joining us live, if you've got something in the chat you want to tell us that you wish you knew or some good tips for new riders, hopefully this episode can be good for those new riders.
Exactly. And if you are a new rider, leave questions in the chat. We are happy to answer them as we go through
Absolutely.
this.
Absolutely. This whole community here, especially over on our Discord, check the links. Um, very open community, very welcoming to new riders. We want to bring in more riders because we don't want motorcycling to die. So we want just to talk about some things that you wish you knew. Pat, I know that you started riding kind of from a different angle than I did. So I thought if we started from where we got into motorcycling, that may present a couple different angles, and then we will go from there. So,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
so I was kind of a late bloomer to motorcycles, especially I think compared to you. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
start riding until I was in my 30s. So, so I didn't come in too over hormoned or whatever. But what about you? What was your start in motorcycling?
Jeez, I got thrown onto a dirt bike at the ripe old age of 3 years old.
Nice.
And it has been an absolute two-wheeled shenanery ever since. Who are you looking at over there?
I
Who
was
are you
looking
looking
at
at?
you on the screen. I
Oh,
think,
okay.
or am I looking the wrong way? I'm probably looking the
I
wrong way.
don't know. No, I don't know. Anyway, but no, I've been on two wheels my whole life effectively. Um, I've logged well over, God, I think in my total riding career, I mean it's got to be over 500,000 miles, I would imagine.
Wow.
I've ridden a lot,
How many bikes have you owned?
including dirt bikes or
Yes.
street. Okay, hold
Well, let's start with that,
on. Hold on. I'm gonna. How many of you owned while I count?
including the Ruckus. Four. So
Great.
three and a half.
Uh,
You're
three
like
and a
20.
half.
You're like
Uh,
20.
I'm probably somewhere in the mid 30s.
Yeah.
Quite a few. Mainly dirt bikes. As it relates to like street bikes, really not all that many, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I've only owned uh DRZ KLR, a different KLR, a different DRZ, a
Noticing a pattern.
couple of Ducatis, Harley, an Indian, a different Harley, a different Indian, uh, like 15 street bikes,
Okay. Yeah.
which means my total number is probably closer to like 40, 45 total bikes. I've owned about 30 dirt bikes.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, there's probably been a lot of things along the line that you have learned. Is there anything that jumps out at you about one big thing that you wish you knew before you started riding?
Jeez, that's a tough question. I think really for me, when it comes to getting started riding, or maybe when I transitioned to street riding is probably a more applicable thing of something I wish I knew.
Sure.
Was just how much bikes move around on the road, like via wind, whether it's you're passing a vehicle or you get a gust of wind or whatever. Like on dirt
Hmm.
bikes, you're out in the woods or you're on a track or whatever. Like you'll get gusts of wind that move you around a little bit, sure, whatever. It's very different than doing 75 miles an hour on the freeway and a big gust of wind shifts you over an entire lane.
Sure. And I guess you expect it on a dirt bike because you're hitting little ruts and it's
Yeah,
uneven.
yeah, you're
It
moving around
wiggles. You know it.
constantly all the time.
Sure.
But when I first jumped to like street riding, that was a big shock for me.
Hmm.
Like I knew it, like I knew it from driving a car, but like it just didn't click.
Yeah. Um,
What about you?
for me, I'm going to kind of go back in and maybe this may be more relevant to those who are just like if they want to start riding, but The one big thing is the whole thing. It's going to cost more than you think.
I should have said that. I should have said
um,
that. I should have said that.
Now, I did kind of approach it initially as like, whoa, I can save money on a bike because it's less gas, and that is true, and that can be true, but not usually because once you get into it, you get into it, and money goes into it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where
um,
like the insurance is cheaper generally. You get much better gas mileage generally, but like the actual startup cost is all I think what is people don't realize how expensive it can be.
yeah, and on that is the gear
Hmm.
because you've got people that start out, and for me, when I started, I knew I was going to get a small little bike because I was like, it's a small investment because I don't know what this future looks like, honestly.
Sure.
Um, so I didn't want to spend a ton of money, but to realize that you're going to spend minimum $600 for decent gear,
Yeah.
more than that is probably what you should budget.
Yeah.
Um, when that gear cost is another 25% of what you kind of budgeted for a entry level used bike, it can kind of blindside you if you're not prepared for it. So that's kind of one of the things that I would say to be mindful of.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, but with that, if I wanted to share what I wish I knew, is buy quality gear because when you
Yes.
get quality gear, it's going to last you for a couple bikes or for you 20 bikes.
Yeah, I mean, I've got one of the first jackets I bought is I still have like I don't use it, but it's because I've unfortunately had to use it in a way that was more impact and slide than I would like to have been. But like it's a jacket that I think I had it for like 8 years before it took a serious hit.
Mm-hmm.
Like you invest in good gear, it will last. And it will last a good long time. Also, what's up, Bo in the chat?
Bo,
Um, Bo makes a very good point. The cost of ownership is definitely more than a car. I think for most bikes.
right. I mean, if you get a basic small CC, I say small, but small mid range CC Japanese bike, maintenance is okay,
Ye-
especially if you learn to do it yourself.
Yep.
Now, once you get into some high end premium bikes and such,
Hmm.
yeah,
It gets pricey quickly.
I just had my bike go in for the 15,000 mile service, which
Ooh,
was
always a painful one.
which is a lot because it's valve checks, spark plug, it's all the things, and it's just where I was just like I can't, but I'm ready for the next 15,000 and I'm excited about that too. But
Yeah.
yes, the cost of ownership, that is definitely one of those things where uh yeah, it can blindside you
Yeah, it
and
certainly
add up.
can. It's one of those things where like your oil changes, versus a car are going to be probably the same ish interval depending on what bike you have, and they're going to cost you about the same amount of money. But like doing your on a Ducati, your Desmo service at 18,000 miles is going to run you $2,500.
That's why
Whereas,
everybody sells them at 17,000 miles, right?
listen, not saying I've done that. That would be crazy. But like on a car, your timing belt is going to be a similar priced kind of large maintenance item, and that's every 100 to 120,000 miles. So like it's just very different um depending on how much you ride. Now the average motorcycle rider probably does I a recent statistic I saw was something like 3,000 miles a year. So like
I'm twice that.
yeah, I mean I'm well more than that,
Yeah.
but
Hey,
like the average rider in America is not not gonna put 15,000 miles. You're gonna do that. You're gonna do 3,000 miles a year. So every 5 to 7 years, you have to do that really big service. Which, if you own a car long enough and you're doing the average 15,000 miles a year on a car, you're gonna get to 100K in a fairly similar time period. So
eight
like
years. Eh,
8 9 years. So
maybe.
just it depends on how much you ride. If you're like Bo, I know, or like yourself or me, like we're putting a lot more miles on bikes, so we're burning through those
Sure.
mileage numbers very quickly.
Yeah.
Just depends on what kind of rider you are.
Yeah. So especially like if depending upon the style of riding. So I think that's one thing you have to know of when you start riding is if you're putting a lot of miles on it, you will have more maintenance costs. That sounds obvious to say it, but motorcycle maintenance generally is more than a car for the same service.
Yeah,
So,
correct. You'll spend a little bit more money to get essentially the same thing.
right.
And also with motorcycles, like you need to be maintaining your brake fluid much more often. You need to be maintaining on a chain drive bike your chain, making sure it's of the correct like slack and it's all adjusted correctly. Like there's a lot more smaller, tedious maintenances you need to be doing.
Hmm.
But not as many really, really large ones. Like when you go to do a brake job on a bike, it's really not that expensive, a couple $100. Where a brake job on a car, you could be upwards of $1,000, $1,500, depending on your vehicle or what have you. Um, but I think another thing I'm gonna hijack this conversation for a second. I think another thing that a lot of people don't yeah like that's so
Like
different
who
than
cares?
normal.
But
But a lot of things that people don't realize, I think, is the shelf life of the gear that you do buy. So like we mentioned earlier that jackets last forever. Like you're not really going to have a shelf life on a jacket. You're not really going to have a shelf life on your gloves. Like they're just going to wear out your boots. But your helmets, on the other hand,
mhm.
absolutely have a shelf life.
Yeah.
So that is something that you will be spending money on, every 5-ish years, hopefully, not
Yeah.
any more often than that.
So I guess to sum up that whole thing is you do need to have basically a budget for these maintenance and almost maintenance to your gear as well that you're going to be
Hmm.
refreshing every so often too. So, but
Absolutely.
but if you can learn to wrench on your bike a little bit too, I think it's definitely worth it. Save some money,
Hmm.
and there's something about just working on your bike that's just
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like I keep spare oil and filters here at the house, and like I'll be just having a really rough day, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm just gonna go do an oil change on the bike. Like it probably needs one, or I feel like it should, and I'll go downstairs, I'll put my headphones in, I'll put the bike on the lift, and do the oil change, and nobody will bother me. It's great.
yeah,
Just a little bit of
absolutely,
therapy, even if I can't go ride.
absolutely. Um, Maybe some other things to know if you were going to start riding is um, uh, it's probably getting your license before you get the bike.
Yeah.
An
You know,
MSF course, I'm going to pitch that big time.
as you should. I was going to.
Because that's actually what I did when I was getting into riding. I didn't know if I'd like it or not. It was just one of those. I'm going to go this route, which kind of blindsided my wife. I think when I first mentioned it, and she was like, what?" Because
Midlife crisis? Do what?
maybe, and I'm still in it. So
That's
awesome.
okay.
Um, yeah, because I just did not grow up around
Yeah.
a bike environment. It just wasn't my thing. I never drove and still have not driven a manual transmission car. So yeah,
What?
it just has never been in my realm. Does that make me weird?
I mean, only a lot. Yeah, but that's okay.
Because knowing that I'm an East Tennessee guy too, you probably know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so all that to say, like riding a bike, shifting, and all that was intimidating to me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take this MSF course because if I come out of this and I just can't do it or I hate it, I don't want to have to be
Yeah, you don't want to.
$4,000, $5,000 in on a bike and whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's a good kind of litmus test to say, can I do this? Do I enjoy it? And then of course, I come out of that course and I'm like, oh, let's go get a bike.
Come out of that, you're like, this is the best thing ever.
Yes, we do have an MSF instructor in the chat, Trey Dog.
We
Um,
do. Trey, what's up, buddy? How are you? Hope you're
so
doing
he's
well here
definitely
in the
going
new
to
year.
pitch and back us up on taking the MSF course and training and constantly
Yeah,
practicing.
constantly being trained, getting training, or even just doing drills. Like something that I do quite often, even if I'm not like, we call it like the balance game. You'll see us do it on Chase's first rides, even is like we'll come up to like a stop and he'll be moving really slowly, just trying to balance the bike as slow as he can. And that's a great way to learn or just reinforce this like a basic skill that you don't really think about all that often like
Sure.
as a motorcyclist, but it's something that I always recommend drilling yourself on stuff like that.
Is
U-turn
it?
drills, all sorts of stuff.
Am I kind of a dork if I say like when I'm commuting home on my bike and I'm able to do one of those footless stops
Oh, they're so good. That's what I'm
and,
saying. The balance game.
and I do it and I'm really like, man, I hope the person behind me noticed that I just balanced a 600-pound bike. That,
Yeah,
and then I'm like, then I go on, I'm like, they don't care.
they don't
They don't
care at all,
care.
but I feel cool,
But
so
I feel
who
better, and that's what's
cares?
important because my feelings are more important than yours.
Ugh,
That's the
man.
world we live in. Hey, focus.
Well, I'm reading chat. Don't at me.
No, your screen looks actually out of your
Oh,
camera's out
god
of focus.
dang it, camera. Yeah, there it goes. All right. Oh my gosh,
Although that focus thing it was applicable to both.
rude. Um, but no, I think when it comes to like doing drills in traffic or doing slow stops in traffic or what have you, like learning, training, constantly trying to improve yourself as a rider is one of the most important things we can do as riders. Only, if not for the fact that it's going to keep you on your toes, obviously training yourself, but like by doing that extra practice and that extra training is when you get into an oh shit situation,
Mhm.
you are able to easily use your training and your like reflexes to get yourself out of it or what have you.
To quote Maverick, you don't have time to think. If you think, you're dead.
Yeah, you
You
just
just need
do.
to develop that skill set to react.
Hmm.
Um, Kind of along those lines, one last thing I'll throw out there is you need to have kind of some thick skin and a short memory. And what I mean by
Hmm.
that is, I would say most everybody, not everybody, but most everybody out there is not out to get you. They
Yeah,
just don't see you.
yeah,
So
they're
when you,
just dummies.
they're just dummies. So when you get cut off, you don't need to go punch a mirror. You just take a deep breath and just be like, you know what? They've probably got something going on. They just didn't see me. It is what it is in motorcycling. I've learned that you just have to brush it off.
Yeah, you've got horns for a reason. You've got, I'll honk at people. I'll kind of throw a hand up and be like, "Hey, pay attention," and then I'm over it.
Yeah.
Like, move on.
Well, and to
Hopefully,
that,
they learn.
sometimes, yeah, and hopefully to that point, like kind of giving them some attention, like, hey, they can, whoa, I need to do better as a driver too.
Yeah, it's like, oh
Um,
shit, I totally missed that person. Holy crap.
right.
Yeah, I feel attacked. No, Nissan Altimas are always hunting. That's true. Nissan Altimas are Altimas. They can't save them. If you're an Ultima driver, I'm not sorry. But
Um,
please learn to drive.
don't worry, Bo. We don't have any documentation from Kentucky. If there's,
Hold on. Pause. Time out. What? What? We're gonna have to story time that at some point because, but we'll have to have you on the show and you'll have to tell us all about this Kentucky adventure you guys went on. You bunch of goobers. Ugh.
so,
Anyway, moving on.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's just a lot of little things. Because when I came into motorcycling, I mean, you don't know what you don't know,
Hmm.
and I unfortunately just did not have anybody. I didn't have any contacts in my phone of anybody that I could call and ask about motorcycling when I started. It
Sure.
it was Google, YouTube. It was Chase on two wheels first rides to be like, what's a decent bike? Um, I will say that if you are taller than 6 feet and 200 plus pounds, you do not need to start on a 250.
No, no, do not like. I wish, like, I think, like, my immediate thought there was like, be reasonable, but like, you don't know
Yeah,
what you don't know,
yeah.
like you said. So it's like, understanding one, your body type and who you are as a person, and understanding how CCs on bikes work.
Hmm.
You say don't start a 250. A 252 stroke dirt bike, very different than a 254 stroke dirt bike. You talk about like a SV 650, small single cylinder, 650cc, a track weapon, but also one of the best beginner bikes on the market. But a R6 or a CBR 600, also a like a sub 650cc bike, but a 600cc four cylinder is very different than a single. So like you have to like do your homework, do your research,
Hmm.
ask questions. You know, if you don't know, go into a dealership, go into a motorcycle shop, go to your local Revzilla cycle gear store, go to your local dealership, ask questions. No one is ever going to blame you or make fun of you for asking questions. If they make fun of you for asking questions, those people suck.
That is true. Also, I will also pitch our Discord link in the description. If
Mm-hmm.
you have questions, you want to get into writing, great community there. Or if you're still kind of like, I don't want to post publicly, message me, message
Mm-hmm.
Patty Rick, you
Yeah,
know?
hit me up on Instagram. 9 times out of 10, I will respond. If it's not clearly a scam.
Right. Most of the time.
Yep.
Although, I did want to help out that Nigerian prince that wanted to start writing. So I sent him some money.
Oh well, you know, you got to do what you got to do. Got to help out those who you can.
But anyway, so anything else you want to add for I Wish I Knew?
Things I wish I knew. Want gear is more expensive than you think it's going to be. Wind on the freeway sucks. So much worse than you think it's going to suck.
Hmm.
Uh, do your homework. Do your research. That's all I got.
Do your homework. Don't be afraid to ask questions
Yes.
and enjoy the process.
Yes. Beware of Ultima drivers.
So I do want to give a shout out to our members here live on Two Wheels over on YouTube that support us greatly, and also to our affiliates. A primary sponsor is Cardo. They are the exclusive communications for the entire On Two Wheels team. So check the link below and also use code Ghost on Two Wheels. Make sure you get the max discount. Tomorrow, February 7th through the 16th, Cardo is doing a Valentine's sale.
Ooh.
22% off. So if you and the significant other need to get a little duo pack, great
Mm-hmm.
time. Or for you solos, if y'all want a bromance and go halvesies on a duo pack, that's a great time too.
Happens all the
Um,
time.
but yeah, you for this sale, you have to use the affiliate link in the description. So I always say use that link and the code just to make sure you're getting the maximum discount. But that runs starting tomorrow, the 7th through the 16th. So thank you to Cardo for hooking us up there.
We do love our partners.
And what we're going to talk about next is buying your first bike at a dealership.
Ooh.
So come back for that one.